Welcome to Love is Kimes, my new recap show of one of my favorite shows, Love is Blind. If you're here, you might be familiar with my work covering the NFL for ESPN, and that's mostly what I've been doing on this channel, but I'm trying something new, which is covering one of the best television shows created in the last 10 years. I feel comfortable saying that. It's up there with, Succession, with my very good friend, David Dennis Jr., who joins us from Anscape. David and I are friends from around the horn. We have been texting about Love is Blind now for a couple years. Both of us have been
Yes.
watching the show for a long time. And with this season 6, timing up perfectly with the off season, I reached out to you, David, and I said, would you be interested in doing a recap show with me? So here we are, ready to do Love is Kimes.
It is quite literally a dream come true to be doing this and talking about something that we spend far too many hours of our day doing anyway. I think we have the. I didn't know we were bringing the gold goblet. I got to get my own
Keep
my
going.
own gold goblet. Oh wow! So this is something that we have spent many hours of our day and our lives doing anyway. I did not know that. I think Mina undersold it a little bit. Like the amount of deep diving that you do to Love is Blind is on par with your football deep diving. Like you are in the Reddit threads, you are in the communication, you are all in the message boards, all of that stuff. And it's great to be, using that for good.
You're pretty on top of the contestants' social media too. You sent me some pretty informative clips. Every uh,
Absolutely.
3 episodes this season. So it is season
Mm.
6. If you're watching this, it probably means you've already started watching the show. If not, if you haven't started watching the show, don't watch this because you will be spoiled. Because we are going to cover episodes 1 through 3 today. Then in a couple
Hmm.
days, we're going to cover episodes 4 through 6. Then with each episode drop from, or group of episodes drops from Netflix, we will be covering 7 through 9, 10 through 11, and so forth. But we're going to be covering the episodes. We're going to be power ranking. We're going to be doing theories. We're going to be doing all of that. So this season I'm really excited, David, because before we get to this season, which is in Charlotte, last season kind of weird. It was, of course, for those who have watched season in Houston with Milton and Lydia as, I believe, the only surviving couple. It was a very odd season. It felt like a lot of the couples didn't actually like each other. And I feel like early on, and it's very early, this season feels different already.
Yeah, so there was a couple of seasons here where this can just feel like a dating show, like just a regular dating show with a gimmick,
Mm,
right? This season really feels like we're getting a blind date experiment, like a social experiment that
yes.
feels like something like what they originally envisioned the show being. And we have a lot of like conversations that are actually really fascinating. When you tell people like a conversation from a real dating show is fascinating, they think like, oh, whatever. But there's some actual like stuff to talk about here, which I think is more closely aligned with what they originally have for a show like this.
I agree. I think the premise of the show, obviously, can you fall in love with someone without seeing them? Um can you decide between two people without seeing them, which is very significant. It's not always tested because, and this has been a common
Mhm.
complaint with the series, they're all kind of attractive, right? There's, and
Right,
often when
right.
the people meet, sometimes there is a disconnect, but a lot of times they're like, okay, yeah, this person is pretty good looking, and if they break up, it's for other reasons. This season thus far, and at this point, there aren't that many meetings. Of course, it's still quite early, and I will say they dragged out the pod section longer and longer.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
this season, it's which I think is smart because frankly, I find that to be generally the most interesting part. Well, the most interesting
Yeah,
part is when they see
mhm,
each other, but yeah.
right.
It felt like this season, yeah, like looks, race,
Mhm.
how those things are represented in the pods, it becomes more of an issue than in past seasons. And to your point, I found it more compelling as a result.
Yeah, I found this to be one that I could actually have conversations about. Like last season really sort of felt like, okay, people who should not be together or should not be with anybody are together now, and like we are getting a lot of like nastiness and like the stuff that comes from that. Here it
Yeah.
feels like there's actual like paths towards something like special if people kind of
Mm.
lean one way or another way, and it's like, and just watching them react to this is like the beauty of it. Like you said, the pod stuff is just literally like, I think this is the most fascinating pod episodes that we've had so far.
Agree. It felt like they showed us conversations involving
Mm-hmm.
politics, for example, that they haven't showed
Yeah.
us in the past. It's too early to tell whether we'll get the Lauren and Cameron or Brett and Tiffany style love story. I don't really
Mm-hmm.
have a take on that thus far. And I
Yeah.
will say, with those couples, it was so Lauren and Cameron being from season 1, Brett and Tiffany
Yeah.
was Seattle. I think that was season 4. It was before season 5. Great season, by the way. With those couples, I remember it was obvious, like within an episode. Oh, they're gonna get married. There's gonna be
Yeah.
zero drama. They're gonna fake drama, but they're so obviously made for each other. They're both
Mm-hmm.
everyone involved is very good looking and seemingly pretty normal. Not the case, I would say, with this season early on. There's no one that jumps out to me that way.
Those couples were so good. I felt like they were crisis actors the whole time. I felt like my Lauren and
Yeah.
Cameron theory this whole time was that they had been a couple for like years, and then they showed up on the pod to pretend like they
Uh.
didn't know each other, so that we could believe that the pod like worked. Like they showed up just for us to believe in the pod. I thought they were crisis actors the entire time.
Yeah, there's no one like that here.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, let's just drive right in because it gets started pretty early. There's love triangles. There's really a love square early, and I think that's
Mm-hmm.
the group. So the way I'm gonna do these recaps is I'm gonna do them by couples or triangles or squares. And over the course of 3
Mm-hmm.
episodes, talk about sort of everything that happens with them. At the end of this episode, one of the couples is together, but that's it. But the first couple it's a square that they open the show with, and really is I found to be the most compelling, frankly, is Jimmy, Jess, Trevor, Chelsea. I did that exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so it's sort of like
Uh,
Jimmy is choosing between Jess and Chelsea.
mm-hmm.
Chelsea is choosing between Jimmy and Trevor. So however you want that. So
Right.
the show opens, with the customary like open the pods, and Nick and Vanessa
Mm-hmm.
Lachey come out and they meet both of the couples, and we meet right away Jess and Trevor. Jess is a single mom. She is probably the most Instagram model like person I think I've ever seen on this show, frankly,
Yeah.
which is genius casting for reasons we will
Mm-hmm.
get to. Trevor is a gigantic man with a mullet
Yeah.
who is like, he's a kind heart. He loves dogs. He meets Chelsea. His dog's name is Chelsea, which is a really weird name for a
Mm-hmm.
dog, but whatever. They kind of bond right away.
Mm-hmm.
She says happiness is Coors Light in a sunset. He says, I think Gandhi said that. I was like, all right, these people seem to be on the same wavelength.
Uh-huh.
And then she meets Jimmy, who is the blonde software sale. I don't know. If I can't remember what someone does, I assume they were in software sales. He's from a small town. He wants to go to every sports stadium. And then Jimmy meets Jess, the single mom,
Mm-hmm.
and he likes how spicy and forward she is. She's pretty aggressive. At this point, she hasn't told him she's a single mom, but she's pretty spicy about it. So let me stop right
Mm-hmm.
there. She calls him Jimmy with the juice. When these
Right.
people meet each other at first, how did you think this was going to go? Did you feel like either of these pairings made sense to you, or what was your take on them?
It made like, I was surprised that we're actually in a square. Like the square actually surprised me because it felt like the pairs already set, right? It feels like we're getting Trevor Chelsea, Jimmy Jessica. Like that just felt
Yep.
immediately the chemistry was there for both of those people. Like you mentioned, my dog is Chelsea, my dog is Trevor. Ha ha ha. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Blah blah blah. Like we have some stuff to laugh about. Like that felt like, I'm surprised that we've gotten this far where we're even talking about them in a square where it just already seems like to be made up. Seems like fabricated drama at this point.
So things take a little bit of a turn when Jess
Mm-hmm.
finally does tell Jimmy she has a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I thought his reaction was fine. At first he was like, I don't know why you didn't tell me this earlier. And it's hard to
Right.
gauge. We don't know how long these people have been talking. He covers pretty well, but then later that day, Chelsea tells him she was divorced, and he like kind of loses it. And he just says, look, I
Right.
had something dumped on me earlier in the day. She also, they exchange facts about their lives that I think are very relevant. He tells her he's proud of he went to college. She says she didn't go to college. She was a yoga instructor. She went to beauty school. She's now a flight attendant. She tells Trevor that about the kid, and he reacts great. Or pardon me, she tells Trevor that she's
Mhm.
divorced. Pardon me, and he reacts
Right.
great. I just want Trevor's great. I love Trevor. I don't know. How did you
Yeah.
feel about Trevor?
Yeah.
I just wanted to put a pin in Trevor because we're gonna kind of leave him for a little bit. I found him to be very delightful.
I thought Trevor is awesome. Trevor just feels like he was just so go with the flow the entire time. Like he is even the idea of like realizing, there's a triangle square here. He's like, cool, best like the best person win. We'll figure this thing out together, and it's all good. He seems to be real. I mean, the juxtaposition of Jimmy's reaction to Trevor's
Yes.
reaction to big news seemed to be huge, and it seemed to be like something that should solidify decisions here. But Trevor just seems like an awesome guy and a guy who comes into this sort of with a better understanding of what this is than most people. Like I
Totally
think he just
agree.
comes into it like, let's see what happens.
Yeah,
Let's figure this thing out.
he says, people want life to be like a fairy tale, like their significant others never
Mhm.
kissed anyone. That's not how life is. Of course, it's fine that you're divorced. He's
Right?
great.
Yeah.
Again, at this point, I'm like, you're gonna end up with Trevor, and he's gonna end up with Jess, and then something happens that I have been. This is early in the series. I think it was an episode 2 would have it.
Mm,
It's in the first 3 hours.
yeah.
I have been from the moment this happened on my television, all I have wanted in my life, more than talking to anyone about the Super Bowl, which is my job, more than talking to my, husband about whether my baby who I'm sleep training is sleeping through the night. I wanted to talk about this particular moment in television because it is absolutely riveting, and I'm going to tell you exactly how it happened. I wonder if you're watching this, you might know it involves Chelsea. You might know what I'm about to reference. Chelsea and Jimmy are talking. She says, "Do you ever get told you look like a celebrity?" He says, "Yeah." He doesn't give the name.
Mhm.
She says, "I do all the time on the plane." She's a flight attendant. "I get one person, but I don't see it, so don't get excited." He's like, "Well, who is it? Well, who's it?" "It's, MGK. I don't know if it's his wife or his girlfriend. I don't know. Whatever. I don't see it. I don't see it." Camera cuts to Jimmy. His eyes go, "Aruga, Aruga." Literally fall out of his head. "You look like Megan Fox?" At home, did you scream leading the witness when she pulled this?
Okay, let me say, you mentioned like what you experienced when you saw it. So full disclosure, I watched this episode a little bit before you did, and the secret of not telling you that this happened when I saw this happen was one of the most excruciatingly painful secrets I've ever had to keep from anybody in my entire life. To just sit there and sit on this by myself, knowing that I was like the only person I knew who saw this, that we are getting 2 consecutive seasons of, oh, I look like Megan Fox, and like I just
Yes,
want
Arena.
Megan Fox just somewhere off
Yeah.
in the world, just watching Netflix, like what, like the 50 Cent me, like what did I do, like why am I in this, like please exclude me from this conversation. And then just as you mentioned, how she laid it out was so expertly manipulative.
Oh my god.
Nobody calls Megan Fox MGK's girlfriend.
Nope.
Nobody knows who Machine Gun Kelly is and does not know who Megan Fox is. This is such a ridiculous explanation, and the way that was so one of the most absurd things I've ever seen in the show.
It's so manipulative because, and I think this is really like some, process stuff, and it cuts to what you and I were talking about earlier. They very, if the contestants on this show talk about their
Mhm,
looks, it is rarely shown. I can count on one hand the number of times where it's
mhm,
come up. It actually comes up twice. We'll get to the other couple. But the other
yeah.
moment is that really comes to mind is when Shake, one of the most infamous Love
Mhm.
is Blind villains of all time, is trying to get women. Remember the infamous "Could I carry you on my shoulders at a concert?" Trying to
Right.
feel for outfit. um
He was
yeah, amazing
Yeah, he
amazing
was like
moment.
doing the Ray Charles movie, like I'm like, could I feel your wrist real quick? Like that's basically what he was doing.
Okay, so I've often wondered, and I imagine as an avid viewer, you've wondered this too. Do they hint to each other? Do they give like do they
Yeah.
tell each other their race? Clearly, Ken and Brittany do. We'll get to that.
Mhm,
Can they intuit it? What kind of information are they giving to each other? And I tend
mhm,
to think a little, right? Like I think
mhm. Right.
like Trevor, for example, told Chelsea, he's like, yeah, I'm a big dude. Like, it's just
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
This is different to me
Mhm.
because it's not only it's inaccurate, and we'll get in that
Mhm.
becomes a plot point later. And I want to say
Yeah.
the other thing about the inaccuracy, like Chelsea's an attractive woman. She just doesn't look like Megan Fox.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
it's
Does not.
I
Yeah.
actually feel bad for her because she's like setting herself up now to be she's gonna become a meme and become the butt of jokes, I'm sure.
Right.
It didn't have to be this way. You didn't have to say that. It's like if you're gonna compare yourself to someone, you can never go like ultra flattering. That's like, just you can't do it. But it's also very manipulative to your point because the second she said that, it was like as you and I have discussed to this point, we kind of thought things were going, and we, at this point,
Mhm.
we still don't know where things are going, but it
Mhm.
felt like a pivot point for that relationship because these people are in their quarters, in these rooms, in these pods, trying to imagine what the other person looks like. And all this dude is thinking now is Megan Fox, Megan Fox, Megan Fox. I'm talking to Megan Fox, and she's the flight attendant.
It's yeah, it's not just the Megan Fox, it's the layout of all the other information. Yes, I'm a yoga
That's a
instructor,
lot.
beauty school, flight attendant. Everybody says I look like Megan Fox. Like that's all, that's what lays it out. And then on the other side, you have I have a 10-year-old. I'm a
Yes.
mom with a 10-year-old child, right? And so when you have somebody who we for what we understand so far, Jessica is not there's none of that sort of looks information been let out, and Chelsea's manipulated the system to give out the information that she wanted to give out. Those are your two things that you have, and that sort of that's what
Yeah.
creates a square for me. That's what turns things away from like sure things to like Jimmy's thinking of something else.
And that's the brilliance of the casting of Jess, which is she is
Mm,
a very conventionally hot woman,
yeah.
but if you don't see her,
Mhm.
the other aspects of her life are not quote unquote like alluring in the same way. She
Mhm.
has a kid. She has a really like difficult life. I mean, she's telling
Yeah,
Jimmy
yeah.
about her, she was adopted, she was in foster care, her, dad committed suicide. Like, and I'm not saying that that's not alluring, but like all this guy has to go
Mm,
on is this woman's tragic story that she has a kid, that she's got kind of an annoying voice. I'm sorry, she does. She sounds like
right.
the nanny. And
Right.
he has no so that's why I think they were like brilliant because we the viewers are privy to this
Mhm.
information that the guy we're watching is not. And I have to say, this is the first time in the history of the show where I was like, damn, 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 damn. I know something that this guy doesn't, and let's see how this plays out.
And what's also important is that not only does he not know what Jessica looks like, Chelsea knows what Jessica looks like. And so
Yes.
they go back into that pod and Chelsea sees this, as you said, conventionally hot, like her Instagram is going to be on fire as soon as the first episode comes out, right? Like somebody who is, perfect social media body, all this stuff, looks, lips, and all that stuff that she has. Chelsea goes into that room and sees her every single day, and she says, I gotta get one up over on this person who in life, right? In society, because of how society works, you put those two women in a club, what's going on 9 times out of 10, right? And they're bringing their own issues of that into it, and Chelsea saw that and says, I gotta put an ace in the hole.
If she hadn't said that,
Mhm.
it would have been more like a Cyrano type, like, wow, this woman's her personality is what's drawing him in.
Yeah,
But the fact that she said that and poisoned the well turned
yeah,
me against her, and I have to think it's gonna turn a lot of viewers against her as well, because it's not like she's leaning on she's winning him over with her superior personality or whatever. She, as you said, pulled out the big guns.
yeah,
And so I'll put that's where we leave things off with this relationship. It's all still up in the air. Trevor tells her she's the only one. He loves her, Chelsea. Trevor's
yeah,
all in.
yeah.
She's
And to
conflicted.
our knowledge, we
Yeah.
don't know if he's gotten this comparison in the pod.
Yeah.
Like he's heard this like we don't know if she's utilized this
I
weapon
bet she has. I
for
bet she
Trevor.
has. I feel
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
although I don't know, they probably would have shown it if she had, but
Yeah.
maybe she didn't have to because she wasn't competing with anyone for it seems
Yeah.
based on the edit at least that Trevor's the only one. episode 3 ends. She's talking about it. It really feels like she's leaning towards Jimmy at the end. She's talking about him in front of Jess, who just walks away because Jess is fully committed to
Mhm.
Jimmy. Trevor's fully committed to Chelsea. Jimmy has to decide between single mom and Megan Fox. Chelsea is deciding between Trevor and Jimmy. Okay. So that was, I thought, one of the more enthralling plot lines. I would rank the second one, again, for the first 3 episodes, the most interesting. It's another
Mhm.
square, although we don't really see one corner of the
Mhm.
square, which is what I want to talk to you about. We've got Matthew,
Mhm.
who Charlie, our producer, compared to Darren Ravel. And once that was in my head, it really corrupted my. It's the Megan Fox, but very much the opposite experience. It really corrupted
Mhm.
my experience of Matthew. Amber, who is a woman we're not shown much of, who Matthew is interested in. AD, who is a main
Mhm.
character, who Matthew is also interested in, and then Clay, who's the guy, the fourth corner of this square. So the episode starts, the first episode, we see a lot of Matthew. He is a financial advisor. He looks like Darren Rell. He kind of acts like Darren Rell. He's very strange. And
Uh-huh.
it's a montage of him asking all these women's just very bizarre questions, like, what is something you excel at? And then when they're like, what is something you excel at? He's like, I didn't expect to be asked my own questions. And it's very weird. But then
And
but
they're
then
numbered questions. They are numbered questions
they're
because you cannot have
yes.
an adult conversation. He says, "Pick a number, and I'll ask the question based on the number."
Um but then something kind of unexpected happens, which is
Mm.
he bonds with AD, who is like a lovely, very, I thought one of the more normal seeming people on the show,
Mhm.
based on the first few episodes. He tells her, I'm not here to become a C-list celebrity, which little fourth wall breaking, kind of weird.
Mhm.
And we learn a little bit about AD. She says she knows she should stop dating players and athletes. She has a lot of really good one-liners. One of them, which is, if I see a red flag,
Mhm.
I paint my nails red to match it, which I loved.
Mhm.
She meets Clay, who is, the way they do the edit is like her saying, I usually date players, and then we meet a guy who is
Mhm.
very obviously the kind of guy she's dated in the past. Good looking, tall. And he's actually kind of, he's you can tell he's flattered that she likes his
Mhm.
personality, because he's clearly
Right.
very self-conscious about that. But anyways, she
'Cause he's
bond
not suave like his father,
which is a
which is a
whole
weird.
thing we will get to. Yeah, there's a lot of that. So, uh, she really clicks with Matthew. It's very odd. And the women are like shocked when she tells them that. They're
Mhm.
like, "Wait, that guy?" And Amber's like, "I have a connection." They show her saying that, but we don't see who it is. Very interesting. Um, so her connection with Matthew deepens. He tells her it's his best connection. He says, I think we might be like endgame, the only outcome. What's my greatest accomplishment? He says, finding you. I gotta say, okay, I'm a sucker, because when he said that, I went,
Uh,
it was just like, whoa. Um, and she's like, I've never dated a white guy, but like, there's something like between us. And then Amber tells her at the end of episode 1 what he said a lot of really similar things to me. What was your reaction to
mhm.
this? Because this was like they're so brilliant, the editors of the show, with these like cliffhangers. That was the boom, the
Yeah.
Netflix sound effect. What was your reaction when Amber reveals this piece of information?
I thought I missed something when she said it. I was like, "Have I been like, what? Where did this woman come from?" Like we hadn't seen her in the pods, we hadn't seen her interacting with Matt. Like I don't know where it came from, and that sort of brings it's an interesting point of this is the edits and all that stuff
Yeah.
because we're just sort of going on her word. Obviously, I don't think that she's lying because she brought the information to AD first, and it just happened to be very similar to what AD had said. And Matt was, seemed to have been lying. To me, it felt like he was lying
So
about other things first.
you
I
never
don't
bought
think
it,
he
not for a second.
no, I did not think the thing that about Matt that actually first it was the number thing, the questions,
Yeah.
all that stuff was weird. Also, I do not think this dude got into a dance battle and tore his hamstring. That story felt like a
Okay.
lie from the beginning.
Yeah.
It didn't check out to me.
I hear you. He definitely seems like a sociopath,
Yeah,
especially after
and
we find
we're
out.
due one sociopath a season. To be
Yeah.
fair, we get one person who may be a mass murderer every
Yes.
season.
Yeah, he's got a lot of shake in him.
Yeah.
Maybe not actual shake to your point, but
Oh,
he
Shake was not the mass murderer. I was thinking, Buddy who sang the song and switched the ladies in the middle of it. What's it? That's his, the ended up
Oh,
who? Yeah,
this
yeah.
the
That
guy
seems
who's
like
saying, yeah, there's been a few.
yeah, yeah. I felt like
Arena,
yeah.
a legend
You're right.
in her
Yeah,
own time, the original mode of Megan Fox. Okay, so
yeah.
she hears this, she's like, "I'm feeling goofy," but Clay is like a player, but he's her type because she's a fix-a-hoe. Again, AD, many good lines. I really like AD. I will get to my power rankings. She's the person I probably most want to be friends
Mm,
with thus far, other than maybe, well,
yeah.
I don't want to give away too much because power rankings. So anyway, she confronts him and he tries to parse out different. He's like, "Well, I didn't say exactly that to Amber." And then he has this weird, again, breaking the fourth wall where he's like, "You watch the show. You think me proposing would be the greatest moment of your life." It's so bizarre. He says he'll make a decision later. One of my all-time favorite moments of everything is when she tells Clay that she's in a love triangle with Matthew, and he goes, "Matthew," and, and it's to your point, like they see people on the other
Yeah.
side, and it's kind of the reverse of Chelsea being intimidated by Jess. He is disgusted, and you know what? Fair, 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 Clay.
Fair, fair. It's very much Soldier Boy going Drake. Like that's exactly what I saw when he did that. Which, here's the thing with Clay. I was surprised that Clay got what that they even got that far with Clay. I thought Clay was one and done when he was like, "I need to know what you look like." You know what I'm saying? Like I thought that was it for Clay, and that he's still around was really shocking to me.
Well, so Clay had a really bad moment where he
Yeah.
asks her again with the looks. This is actually fast forward towards the end, or no, it happens at some point
Mm,
though. He tries to get her to tell her what she looks like because he's like, I don't want to be with someone if I'm
yeah.
not physically attracted to them, and she's like, that's the whole point of this thing is you don't do that. And she actually, when you can tell she is kind of his physical type, but she's like, I don't want to like do
Yeah.
that. So he has a bad moment, but his bad moments are far overshadowed by the fact that he is competing with Love Is Blind, Darren Ravel, who so
Mm,
she there's this cathartic moment where or not cathartic, but she tells Amber, she's like, look, everything you said to me, he said to you, he said to me. And
mm,
Amber is like, damn, that sucks. I
yeah.
am sorry for, I feel like I've been blabbing about him. I had no idea. It's a nice moment.
Mm,
I want to say that because sometimes when there's these
right.
like
Yeah.
moments between same sex competitors, they get really catty. Like, I think both girls were like girls about this, where they were like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's clearly the villain here. And then Amber
Mhm.
leaves.
Yeah.
She just leaves.
Bounces. She says slay first, which is a ill like a weird placement of the word slay. I don't know where that came from. She was AD was like, this was going on. Amber's like, slay. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. It's just like you're bonding, I guess. Sure.
She do what she can. Uh,
Right.
okay, so the next morning, Matthew comes back. She's like, Amber left. He says, I would assume that's about me. Another weird, very weird fourth wall breaking moment. America. They do love a good underdog. Now I got the entire country of America on my side. And he's like, I'm devastated. And she's like, are you devastated because Amber's gone? And he says, I feel like I broke someone's heart on national TV. And she's like, what the what's going on? She's 80 is like really confused. She doesn't understand what's happening. I don't understand what's happening. This man, I don't quite understand what role he's trying to play, but they end it. He says,
Mhm.
I'm gonna go get Amber, confirming that he was a sociopath all along. And then at the very end
Yeah.
of the episode, it's back to her and Clay, and that's how episode 3 ends. So to put a pin in this, it's been reduced to a single pairing. Do you think
Mhm.
we will see Matthew again? Or do you think that's it?
I think that's it for Matthew. I'm once Matthew went full the country of America is rooting for me. I was like, we've already got him. The first one of the first things he said was he compared himself to Clark Kent or Superman or one of the like something like that. And this whole country of America, national TV, which was like, you're on Netflix, bro. Like, what are you even talking about? Like, that was a weird statement. Like, I don't know. He just felt like I don't want any more of him. He served his purpose.
Mm.
He's sort of like eye drop guy from the last season who was like,
Oh,
just
the
was
that one
there.
guy, yeah, 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, who
Yeah,
2
right?
seasons ago
Yeah.
who was a very important like for his time there, like
Yeah.
his efficiency rating was off the charts because he was unforgettable for his time there. But like we're gonna leave him where he is. No more Matt.
Yeah, I think I tend to think we might not either because I looked at Netflix, their Instagram, they post the social medias of like the people who
Mhm.
play prominent roles and they didn't tag him, which either means he's not on social media or he like threatened them with to not tag him, knowing how this is gonna play out for him. So we leave things
Yeah.
off with AD and Clay and we'll talk about that. Okay, so we went kind of those are to me by far the most compelling
Mhm.
storylines because
Mhm.
and we can just breeze right through these. We get a lot of not a lot of but like a fair amount of Johnny and Amy um who are the blonde.
I'm sorry. You just saying their names has put me into our deep REM sleep.
I call them the NPCs of the show because it's
Yeah.
just like they're just pointless. They're fun. They seem like very nice religious people. I mean, there's a few religious people on this one season, but they seem nice. I mean, she has gone through a lot in her life. She's a very cute Latina girl who has a brother with
Mm,
special needs. He is like he kind of looks like a snowboarder. I don't know if he is a snowboarder. He has that feel.
yeah.
He looks like he gets a lot of points at REI. I don't know, but they actually meet before this ends.
Yeah.
There's a lot of their dates. There's no drama. There's no one else. There's no competition. Doesn't look like PFT. Charlie says he looks like PFT. PFT commentator. They do meet. I do want to get your thoughts on that before we move on because these are always the most interesting moments to me. They immediately make out. She
Mm,
looks great. I love her dress. He's like, "You're so
yeah.
beautiful." She admits that she has historically dated ethnic men. He is about as far
Mhm.
from that as it gets. Based, like, what did you think about their first meeting? Did you feel like they were attracted to each other? Like, because it's always a little awkward. What was your take on that?
Boring works. I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like they were a couple and this is, we're getting into theory stuff later. I felt like they make me feel as though they're the only ones that make it because they feel like a couple that would
Mm.
traditionally be on the cutting room floor. Like, every season we have
Yes.
one or two couples who are just like they show up at the reunion and they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, these other two people got married, but nobody cared about them, so we cut them off." Like that's where I felt like these two would be, but they're included in here for a very odd reason because they're the most interesting thing they had was
Mm.
when he was playing chess with himself. Like when he was playing chess with himself, I was like, okay, that's like a weird, quirky dude, but they seem harmless and boring couples work on this show. They just
Yes.
seem to like make it.
I think that's very fair. Yeah, the only notes I took on her were winged eyeliner because she does a thing with her eyeliner. That was like, that's kind of cute. I don't know.
uh,
Truly not much to say about them. Um, Ken and Brittany, on the other hand, I do think are interesting because they're also religious. Ken is the
mhm,
25-year-old, and I think that's important.
mhm,
It'll be, yeah.
yeah.
Principal. She is a former teacher. He is black. She is white. Um, right from the beginning, he's like, she was a teacher. I'm a principal. She loves God. I love God. There was a
Mm.
line that I thought was very telling where she says, she can't wait for the day her child asks her a question and she can be like, "Did you talk to your daddy about that?" I don't know if I've ever related to a person less than in that moment
Right.
of television. But I guess it's a religious, I don't know. They bond over she's had some trauma in her life.
Mm.
They both at this point to me seem like very sweet people. That's sort of all,
They
was
seem
yeah.
Yeah, they seem fine. They seem like a little less boring, but they seem like they're there for each other. I want to know like what the pipeline from college to being a principal at a school is because this guy might be like Doogie Howser. Like I didn't know you could be a principal at 25. Like how
25,
does that
yeah.
work? But like that's pretty. He seems like a must be a responsible guy. They've decided hey, we're not gonna like what do we want to do? This is a pact with God. Let's wait for the sex thing and all that stuff. So they're
On the
seem
same
to be like
page.
on the same sort of page. And it is one of the reminders of, oh yes, this is North Carolina. Like
Yes, great point.
that like this is a
Yeah.
regional, this is a reminder of where exactly
Mm.
we are in the country.
You don't think, the, satanic city of Seattle has a woman saying she wants to be led over and over? You're
Yeah.
like, I wanna be
Yeah, I
led."
think Yeah, this was as somebody who went to college in the great state of North Carolina and spent a lot of time, like some of these people with some of these dynamics rang pretty familiar. And also I'm
Mhm.
a southern person, so some of these rang familiar. So I see that that religious part of it, you know, being a bond for them and being something that
Yes.
can really get them,
It's
to the
clearly
next level.
the main thing here. What is
Yeah.
interesting
Yeah.
is the revelation that he has never dated a white girl, and
Mhm.
that is what made this more compelling to me, frankly, just as a from a plot everything standpoint,
Mhm.
because I was like, okay, I want to see what happens when they meet, because
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
obviously, this is to go back to what we were talking about at the beginning about sort of the premise of the show. This to me is a really fascinating test to that premise, because there have been interracial relationships on the show, but
Mhm.
like Cameron clearly had dated many non-white women. In fact, one would argue
He
that
was
that
all
was
he was all for it. He had
he's like, "You need a bonnet? We're
he
going to
was
bed."
all for it. He was all yeah, yeah. She right. She was Lauren was the one, like that was the manufactured drama, but she was okay with it. Like that
There
was
was no
fine,
drama. There was 0 drama.
Um
Yeah, yeah.
Right. What was the fascinating one though for me was Kwame, who clearly went on the show a
Yes.
couple he went on the show
See,
and
yeah.
singularly to find a white woman.
But
Like
he
that was why
and
he was there, because he had trouble finding, like, white women were not finding him attractive, or there were issues with their
mm.
family, and he had no desire to be with a black woman and wanted to go have an easier access to a white woman, so he went on Love Is Blind.
So this feels like the first time that I can remember that 2 people bonded about something like religion,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing you would bond about without ever seeing each other, where the
Hmm.
physical aspect would actually challenge the relationship. So I'm curious to
Right.
see how this plays out because of that. I find it like genuinely interesting. Less
Yeah.
interesting for me is the final love triangle. We don't get a lot of it, so we don't have to spend much time on it. But we are introduced in episode 2 to Jeremy, Laura, and Sarah Ann. Jeremy he's in construction, blonde guy with the glasses. Number 1 is Laura, who's a blonde girl. Sarah, says is cool. He says he needs to be with someone with a big personality. Um, I'll just borrow from my husband's notes, which is all of these people are annoying. Was his take on this trio? Uh, Laura and Jeremy bond over the fact that he has a big neck, has to wear Henleys. They're both very
Mm,
clean. He has 2
mhm.
Roombas. They talk about sleep apnea, Christmas. The only thing I found really compelling about this is they do talk about politics. He actually asks Sarah Ann. They
Yeah.
actually show it. Again, we're regional.
Mm.
Sarah describes herself as being conservative, sorry, pardon me, a patriot, but conservative. We don't
Mhm.
actually
Yeah,
get a sense of where Jeremy stands on things, although he hints
mm,
at being pro-choice and pro LGBT. I think kind of that's suggested.
yeah.
So I don't know. We don't know if the conservative thing, if he aligns with that, if it's a turnoff or whatever. But I was surprised that they actually showed that, David.
Oh, we get an idea where Jeremy is, and it's as a guy who you go out and you do some dating things and you make some. This guy is not a patriot, but he is more left leaning, but he's trying to get some. So he's like, sure, whatever you say. Like that's where I got. That's the vibe I got. Like I don't. He ain't aligned with her politically at all. He was like,
Okay.
cool, you might be hot, like when I see you on the other side. So we're gonna allow for it. But it was, I think, like
Mm,
I can't think of another time on this show where we get the, like, abortion talk and
yes.
like the stuff about those deep political conversations. Like I don't really get a feel for the connection of those three yet. Like these are
Yeah.
sort of just very conversations that we have, but we did get some political stuff that we don't get. I think
Yeah.
the closest we get was our buddy who may or not have been at the White House January 6th from last season, but that's
JP,
about it.
JP, shout out. Yeah, and I think I read an interview after where the woman that JP ended up with was somebody was at she was
Mhm,
asked about that. They were like, well, "What's up with that dude with all his flags?" And she said in an interview, she's like,
mhm,
"Yeah, we had the politics talk and we aligned on that." So I think they all talk about it. Yeah, right. I think they all
mhm.
talk about it.
Yeah, yeah.
I think my guess would be it's typically not shown because in these times it would really
Yeah,
affect how you
yeah,
watch these people in the show, right? Like,
yeah,
it would affect whether you like them moving forward, whether you want them to be
Mhm.
together, et cetera, et cetera. Now, whether, from an editorial perspective, whether that's the right move or not, I will leave to you, but I suspect, or leave to anyone, I guess, but I suspect that that's the thinking behind that, is like, let's not,
Mm.
alienate half the audience towards this person by explaining. But like, you can usually guess. Like, I feel like I would probably have
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
90%
yeah.
hit rate guessing. It was just interesting to me that they showed it, but they ended with, we don't know which direction Jeremy's going to go in. Did you feel like you had a sense?
Not yet. I do not get a sense because again, they just seem to be people talking to each other on the pod. Like, I
Yeah.
actually am not sure that, like, this will lead anywhere. Like, they're just like having these conversations, and they sort of fell to the background. The other stuff that was going on.
I feel like all three of these people are kind of like, they're not like Johnny and Amy where they're NPCs, but they're like
Mm.
very like basic, not to be
Yeah,
cast. I
yeah,
mean, listen,
yeah,
I have a sign that says "Dogs welcome, people tolerated." This is the most basic
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
This is truly cringe. So I am in no position to
Uh,
call people cringe. But okay, so that is where things stand at the episode of 3. Now let's get to a segment I'm calling "Will They Say Yes." David,
all right.
this will be pretty quick because we've only got 3 like established couples at this point. A lot of we have a
Yeah.
square, we have a triangle, but at this point there are 3 couples that are, I think, we don't know if they're going to even make
Mhm.
it to. They're going to propose. They're going to make it to Mexico. They're going to make it beyond that. But I'm comfortable starting with these 3 couples, beginning with da 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 Johnny and Amy.
We're going we're
Yeah,
going absolute yes
yeah.
here.
All
I
right.
have yeah, like I mentioned, they're just the boringness of them seems to indicate that they're gonna make it. And I don't have hope for much anybody else, so it feels like
Well,
they're there to make us feel good.
that's actually the fact that they're in this, as you pointed out,
Yeah,
they remind me of like the couples that get cut, makes me wonder if they
yeah,
had to keep them in to have a successful love story. So it's kind of like, like
yeah,
they're inflating the results, so to speak.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Clay and AD.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Every season we get somebody who's like, this one person didn't work. Yeah, what about this other person I didn't really like? And we saw that happen in real time with AD. She was
Yeah.
like, Matt, like, she had didn't want Clay at all, and then Matt turns out to be nobody, and she was like, Clay's not so bad. I'm kind of a fix-a-hoe and all that
I
stuff,
want to
and
get to
like
Mexico. I want to stay on
and
the
the other woman,
show. Yeah.
right? I want to get to Mexico, and the other lady was like, he said he's a piece of and AD was like, that's what I love about people. And so, like, that feels like it's a bad sign.
Yeah, it's not looking great. I mean, unless he's like actually changed. Um, but that's that one I'm not feeling great about. Although I will say, Kwame and Chelsea are they were the ones
Yeah,
who he settled for her after being rejected
yeah,
by someone, I can't remember, another blonde woman, I feel like. And
yeah.
they're still together. So who
They're
knows?
still together. And
Okay.
Clay also has the genuine curl kit, which I just don't trust dudes who have the genuine curl kit. So there's that. My own personal biases will bring it to the show.
It was that and not him wearing a neon yellow shirt with a leather vest at one point.
There was also that. He did look like a B2K backup dancer. That
In the
was that's what
pods. For
in the
whom?
past.
For whom,
Right.
sir? Okay. Finally, Ken and Brittany.
Um Yeah, I feel good about them right now. I feel good.
I don't bet
Like,
against your
Jesus will
religious
conquer
jinx.
all
Yeah.
for them.
I'm like, you're so religious. I feel like I'm not. I
Yeah.
think so. All right.
Yeah,
Finally.
once you get to this is basically like a covenant, so they're not going anywhere.
Okay. And then finally, we are going to wrap with me doing a power rankings of everyone who's on the show. So the power rankings is basically who's the best person on the show and who's the worst. So it's basically like, do I like you?
Okay.
It's not, are you gonna get married? Are you getting
Okay,
screen
alright.
time? Are you getting followers? It's my personal power rankings of likability, and I would like you to weigh in.
Okay.
We will roll through these.
Ooh, the suspense. I feel like I'm now on one of these shows. Trevor, yeah, okay. All right, I'll take Trevor
I
at
love
1. I'll take
Trevor.
Trevor at 1.
I'm a big
There's
Trevor
a
fan. I'm a
yeah,
Trev head.
Trevor's just a big teddy bear. Yeah. Give it to me.
Is he the
Trev head. That's what we're keeping that. We're
i-
keeping Trevor. Yeah.
is he the Mike Golick Jr. of Love Is Blind? Love Is Blind side.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Okay, this is probably too high, but I got
All
Ken,
right, we got
Ken,
Ken and
Ken at
who's
number
after? Oh,
2, and
Ken.
then Brittany at number 3.
Okay, I could take it. I guess since they're still there, that's fine. I would have put Amber, but she left. I thought that she just handled everything
It's true. It's true.
um beautifully, minus saying slay at a very weird time. But yes, I'll take Ken and Brittany at this point.
They're likable. I have no
They are
issues with
likable. Yeah.
them. For
They know very wonderful after church brunch spots, and I would love to go
I
and
would
do
like
that with
to
them.
like I feel like if I interacted with them, I had to sit next to either of them on a plane, it would be a good experience.
Yeah, yeah.
So 4 I've got Jess.
Okay.
Which when I first watched it, I was like, but then when I rewatched the episodes and we
Yeah.
both rewatched them because we're students of the game, we're very committed to the craft.
Yes. Mhm.
I thought she actually really impressed me upon second viewing.
Yeah, Jess, I think more than anybody benefits from the second viewing. Like she comes across very sort of sure, very knows what she wants. I like her on second watch. First watch, I was kind of like a little iffy, but
So 5 is AD, who I said is the girl I'd probably most like
mm,
to be friends with. But she got
yeah,
involved in a love quadrangle square with a sociopath, and then settled for a
mhm,
walking red flag. So I can't reward her too
yeah.
much, despite the fact that I find her likable.
She is likable. Patriots cheerleader. So depending on where your sports, allegiances lie, former
Wow.
Patriots cheerleader. So there, that might color your belief of AD. But I will also say that I hope that she's prepared for the amount of social media followers she's going to get
Oh,
very soon.
I think she is. 6,
I will
I
say that
just
respectfully.
we'll get to Mexico. Amy and Johnny, whatever. Right.
Yeah, they're
um,
there. They're kind enough. They're fine.
okay, so I'm putting Jimmy at 7 because I can't fault
Mhm.
him too much for being on the other end of the Megan Fox controversy. Otherwise, he doesn't really do
Yeah,
anything objectionable. He seems like a very like normal guy who probably follows a lot of Barstool accounts and uh,
yeah.
is fine.
Yeah, he could have handled the "I have a child" thing a lot better. I think it's fair to maybe have wanted to hear that earlier, but like you should probably be a little bit more like Trevor when you hear new information. Like he made both of the women sort of feel not great when they revealed very normal things about themselves.
I just did Jeremy and Laura next. Not very strong feelings about these people at this point. We didn't really see a lot of them.
Yeah. She just kind of looks like Michelle Beadle to me, which I can't get over. So,
She does. I didn't think about that. You're right. I don't know anything about her. I couldn't gather other than like the Christmas
yeah,
thing.
me neither. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so remaining we've got there's 3 more, and I'll just do them all at once. Okay, so really tell me if I'm being too harsh here at 12.
Okay,
S-
12 is you put I would put Chelsea I would put Clay below Chelsea. I want to
Really?
give Chelsea a little bit more. It was a wildly manipulative thing that she did.
I hated it so
Also,
much.
also it was a Hail Mary because like I'm gonna give a little bit of grace for somebody who walks into a pod and looks at Jessica every day and is like, I gotta do something about this. And she pulls out a trick play. Like I got, it happens all the time. So but Clay, man, Clay just gives me bad vibes. There's just bad vibes all around with Clay. My dad is suave. I want to be who? When's the last time you heard a human being say suave in
Many
your
times.
life?
He said it
There's
more than
that.
once,
There's the
too.
like, and yeah, he said it a bunch of times, and he was like, "I need to know what you look like immediately. Tell me what you look like." Like there's like, and the curl kit. There's just so much bad vibes with Clay. I'd put him below.
That's fair. Yeah, there's a lot. We'll learn more about Clay, I think, in the coming episodes. But this is the official Love Is Kimes power ranking. This has been episodes 1 through 3. We'll be back in 2 days with our recap of episodes 4 through 6. Thank you so much, my co-host David Dennis Jr., for joining me today.
Thank you so much. I cannot wait to get to the rest of this.